So what did you tell him?
I said no way, the whole deal or nothing.
What did they say?
Nothing, right? They said nothing.
Mike blew it again. A major client moves on.
They said yes.
Whoa, yeah!
I told you.
Once again, chutzpah saves our hero from a fate worse than Sherm going over his expense account.
Say, now I have been charged with
Horrible crimes.
keeping down expenses in this company and making sure we don't spend any more than we absolutely have to.
That explains these donuts.
Ooh, and this coffee.
Save some of that coffee for me. I'm not awake yet.
Hi, Harriet. Hey, does anybody know what this meeting's about?
Uh-oh, I'll bet Sherm does. Workers' compensation and disability management. Come clean, Sherm. The finance department have anything to do with this?
You know, if you guys would ever bother to look at your spreadsheets...
Shermy, workers' comp has got nothing to do with the art department. They don't rush people to the hospital for eraser burn.
Don't they have pills for that?
Yeah, little pink ones. Kind of chewy, though.
Or any of the other information we send down from finance.
Well, you'd get very depressed, I know.
Well, I'm not kidding.
Neither am I, but I don't think we're going to solve anything by having another meeting.
We could ask people to try not to get hurt on the job anymore.
It's an idea. But all I can tell you, though, is that the boss is very upset.
Well, I don't blame him.
I'd expect that kind of smart comment from you, Logan.
I was agreeing.
Oh. Well, I'm not used to that from you.
Ha! 10 points on the sarcasm scale for the finance guy.
You know, Harriet ought to know something about all this.
Oh, I know about as much as you do.
But you're the head of personnel. You're the nurturer in residence. If we're going to have a meeting on workers' comp, then you
Todd,
should...
my sweet, workers' comp is only a small part of what my department does. A very small part.
Mine, too.
But let something go awry and you all come buzzing around my desk like flies around a day-old jelly donut.
I knew there was something about these donuts.
Henry said something to me about improving workers' comp conditions. He said it's getting out of control and that we need to do something.
Well, I'm all in favor of improving things as long as my department doesn't get blamed for the way they've been.
Or mine. But you know, I think Henry realizes what we face. Workers' comp in my department and in yours, Sherm. Well, it's like opening your front door and finding a baby in a basket with a note attached.
Oh, yeah. You mean, please take care of my child, like in the cartoons.
That's right. Maybe you hadn't planned to raise that foundling. And maybe you don't even like its looks. But you don't have much of a choice. You've got to take it in.
And take the blame for it.
Correct. But in this case, I think Henry's patting us on the back for doing what we could with what we were given.
An ugly kid.
Well, I guess you could put it that way, Logan.
So if Henry's worried about cost on workers' comp, what's the answer? I mean, workers are going to get hurt no matter how careful we are.
Maybe you people have time for these meetings. I've got a plant to run.
Walter!
Just whose idea was this anyway?
Walter's wearing a tie.
Walter, I've never seen you wear a tie.
Could get caught in the machinery, right, Walt?
That's why this is a clip-on. Pops right off, pops right on. Keep it in my desk drawer just in case someone asks me to a meeting. Now that I'm dressed, can we get on with it?
Well, the boss isn't here.
I understand this is about workers' comp.
Yeah, that's the rumor on the street.
It's going to be the chance for you white-collar types to put the thumb screws to my people in production.
Hey, Walter!
We're always going to have accidents, and I'm going to be really steamed if I end up with some college kid leaning over my shoulder telling me what to do.
I don't think that's what's going to...
Walter's right. Workers' comp is partly my baby, too.
There's that baby again.
And if we're having a meeting here today to rake my department over the coals...
That won't happen. You're doing a great job, Sherm.
Darn right I'm doing a great job. The best job I can under the circumstances. Best anybody could.
How many people hate meetings? Could I have a show of hands?
Boss is here.
I'll get right to the point. Our shareholders expect us to make a profit. We do that, we have a good product, and we have good people.
Here, here.
A big round of applause for us. Let's really hear it, huh?
That's right. Innkeeper, massive raises all around.
But we shoot ourselves in the foot every time we have to make huge work comp premiums and payouts. It impacts on company profitability, and the costs increase every year.
I think he means no massive raises.
So what are you saying? We should tell our people to stop having accidents?
I don't think anyone's getting hurt here on purpose, Henry.
Oh, I am.
All right, Mike is. It's a hobby.
Yeah, I really like it.
There are some things we can do to save on indemnity payments, to reduce lost time, keep medical payments down, keep litigation to a minimum, and even make a dent in rehabilitation costs.
How do we do that, Henry?
Well, the Meningers RTWC Workers' Compensation Consultants have this model that...
Outsiders.
Circle the wagons.
What do they know about our business?
Ivory tower stuff, just like you guys. Let them spend some time on the production floor.
Walter's right, Henry. We've seen it all before. Consultants come in with these preconceived ideas, take a quick tour of the building,
Yeah, and then they turn in a generic list of recommendations in an impressive-looking leather binder. Nice.
Thank you.
What do a bunch of outsiders?
Hold it, I'm on a roll.
Sorry, I thought you were through.
That's what they said about Sinatra, and look what happened.
Good point.
Thanks. So, everybody wades through the recommendations once. There's a meeting, lots of impressive talk, and that's it.
The history of civilization in 30 seconds. Nice job, Mike.
Thank you.
Just a bunch of useless wheel spinning.
Oh, maybe not. We can always reuse the leather binder.
Well, I guess I better say it. This makes me mad.
Sherm.
No, Henry. Now hear me out. Well, we all have some responsibility for workers' comp. A signature here, a form there. But mostly it falls on my department and on the personnel department. But I get the feeling you're saying Harriet and I aren't doing our jobs.
I'm not saying that at all.
Well, maybe it's just me, but it sure seems like it.
It's not just you, Sherman. I'm feeling the same thing.
No. I think you're doing a great job. You both are. Sherm, our failures with workers' comp don't have anything to do with you and Harriet. Our successes do. Every one of them.
Oh, well, could we have some spontaneous applause?
Here, here.
Workers' comp is just a tiny part of your responsibilities and a tiny part of Harriet's responsibility. We sort of throw it at you and say, handle it, and walk away and hope for the best. You don't have time for it, and we don't give you the tools for it.
It's like the old story about the dancing bear. It's not that he dances well that's so amazing. It's that he dances at all.
You can be the best dance teacher in the world, Sherm, but that bear will never be able to do Swan Lake. Relax. This isn't about you. This isn't about any of you. This is about the system we've given you, and we need to work on that.
You ever see a bear dance?
Well, sure, lots of times when I was in college.
How'd you like it?
Not bad. Too many bubbles.
As far as your complaints, Mike, the Menninger RTWC people are different.
I'm so sure.
How do you mean, Henry?
Well, they have a way to analyze how we do things and then help us develop our own plan of action so we can keep costs down on workers' compensation.
What do they do? Come into the workplace and
They
then...
can, but they don't have to. Some companies might not want that or need it. That's why they offer this interactive kit.
So, you can be your own do-it-yourself consultant?
Exactly. They have the most complete package I've ever seen. I've got a videotape here that explains some of what they do.
Oh, man, Henry, I have a meeting with a client.
It's just a taste, a few things to consider. Certainly not the whole program. It'll only take a few minutes.
Come on, Mike. Sit down. You might learn something.
Okay, in just a few minutes.
Sherm, you okay?
Yeah, as long as I'm not being blamed, I guess I can be as open-minded as the next guy.
Harriet?
Hey, I'm open-minded. I have to be. I run a personnel department.
Wait a minute. I just realized that Charlie's not here.
We can't do this without Charlie.
No, he's safety director. He's got as big a part of this as Harriet or Sherm.
Maybe bigger. He should definitely be at this meeting.
Charlie can't be here today. I got a call this morning. His wife went into labor last night.
3 weeks early.
A boy or girl?
The baby hadn't been born as of 20 minutes ago. Charlie sends his regrets about missing the meeting. I promised I'd call and fill him in. Henry?
Workers' comp is a big problem all over, in companies just like ours, and it's getting bigger. It's not just us.
Whether you use our services or not, we would like to offer you some tips on saving dollars in workers' compensation. We're not experts in your industry or business, but we are experts in workers' compensation and disability management programs. In every case that we provided training and consultation, we have found that the employer's workers' compensation programs are scattered amongst their divisions and departments, which only leads to higher cost for your company's workers' compensation. These circles represent divisions or departments that are found in companies like yours. Each is kind of a turf, enclosed in a turf barrier, and operate like fortified islands by individuals who dislike workers' compensation, but will do what they need to keep their small part of workers' compensation in their turf area. Now, what we do is bring those islands together, break the workers' compensation turf issues, so that the divisions will work together with overlapping responsibilities. Nobody loses, and workers' compensation becomes a united front.
Hey, you know, the guy's got a point. Well, I don't really know the exact cost of workers' comp.
Nah, me neither. I mean, we never talked about
Yeah,
it.
shh. Hey, look, Sherm's really into this.
Hey, new guy on screen. New guy, heads up.
A lot of companies have a blind spot about workers' compensation. They don't understand that it's part of the overall picture and must be budgeted against profitability. Whether insured or self-insured, costs must be absorbed within the industry, and it's not a fixed cost. It changes yearly at least. Now think about this. An injured employee who doesn't return to work receives 66 2/3% of his weekly wage tax-free. The longer he's out, the more bills are produced, the more medical costs, and eventually litigation and rehabilitation. Production management says, why should we bring him back on the job if he can't perform it? We're not paying him full salary anyway. That is true, but there's increased financial exposure to the employer who's in a losing situation. Why not bring that person back into his job at 60% production and avoid the indemnity payment?
Hey, not a bad idea.
We should have thought of that.
Remember that the 66 2/3% indemnity payment, as well as the additional cost created by an absent worker, goes to the cost of the product.
Sure. You bring him back at 60% output, and you save everybody time, trouble, and money.
Makes sense. And if workers' comp costs go down, my overall production costs go down too.
There are no quick fixes. There never will be. But there are ways to reduce medical payout, ways to reduce the number of permanent disabilities, and to achieve better employee and employer relationships.
Paying a little attention helps too.
What do you mean, Walter?
There was a guy last year, Ferguson. Remember him, Henry?
Don't bring that one up again, Walter.
No, come on, this sounds good. Give, Walter, give.
Well, he got hurt. Had to be out. I don't know exactly how it happened. Maybe it's just because nobody bothered to check up.
Or maybe, with everything else we have to do, it was just easier to fill out the papers every week.
Maybe, but the point is, the fellow ended up collecting partial pay for a year.
Yeah, so?
He was fully recovered in 2 weeks. So as long as the company kept paying him to stay away, he just went fishing.
That's a bright guy.
Yeah, well, we dropped the ball on that one. That's why I want to use this Menninger self-directed program. One of the first things it says is that personal contact between the employer and the employee is important. If we'd had some of that, the fishing thing wouldn't have happened. This interactive kit will show us how to identify gaps in our own program, then build bridges over those gaps, from island to island. Gets everybody working towards a common goal.
Cost containment.
Right. The kit shows us how we can do that. Gives us kind of a impartial perspective. See, it's hard for us to jump over turf barriers without it. We're insiders.
Yeah, well, we're all too busy protecting what we've got from each other.
I don't do that.
Oh, you do too.
Prove it.
You run your phone messages through the shredder and then carry the pieces home.
My kid has a gerbil. It's nesting material.
The key is to make sure that injured employee remains in the employment framework. The longer that worker's away, the less successful they'll be at returning to work. A Michigan firm, for example, allows their individuals to return to work for as little as 2 hours a day.
I get it. It keeps them in the habit.
That's a wonderful idea. And so